I've just taken the events I know and related to the times. We've done this chart all through these classes. So this is trying to put it all together. But these are the transits and how tightly they fit. 1913, Uranus still opposing. And Saturn's still on the IC by March of 1918. And then the Jupiter, and by May, Jupiter's opposing Neptune and Neptune squaring Jupiter. So there's great confusion what I value, what I want, what I'm staying for. So probably he's a fixed sign. He's the Leo with the Aquarius rising and the Moon in Taurus. He doesn't want to change, and everything just changed. So probably he held on to his wife and held on to the home a bit more during that time. I'm not sure if it was that, but certainly he didn't want more change than that. He was struggling around this, but we don't hear much of his stories. Probably have to read his wife's biography to get that. Okay, so I'm going to go along. Then by the time you get to the middle of 1913, Pluto goes into Cancer. So this was really the beginning of the area as Pluto went into Cancer. The Second World War started. You know, like not immediate, but then it went stationary direct, 3 degrees, Cancer, and then it backed up and went by December. It was going back into Gemini for a little bit, and that's as far as I went. So okay, that's the transits. Okay. Now, with the progressions, this progressed Sun. Oh, let's just get to, I'm not going to stay on this one. This is the progressions for the time he broke, but his progressed Sun, the Moon in Virgo, just after the new moon. It's a new start, but it's building up from a relationships house going into the 8th house. His progressed Sun goes from the 7th up to the 8th to the edge of the 9th in his lifetime. It goes up that far. It doesn't really get up to the into the 9th. It goes up to into Libra. It doesn't get to the Scorpio. So the Pluto stays within a degree or so. Neptune same, and Saturn. These are the progressions, so they're not moving very far from where they were born. So we're going to look closer at these. Mars just moves a little bit, and Mercury and Venus have both moved forward a few signs. So okay, so now first thing I want to do is look at this. Okay, so you see here, the progressed Sun was in Virgo and the Moon was in Virgo. So you just had the progressed new moon about a year and a half before this. So when I go to the moon phase, the progressed moon phase, okay, so his progressed new moon started 1910, October 7th. That was probably after the trip to America, and he's come back. But it's starting that's the inner new gong starting, and it's not going to change. It doesn't change that till 1914. It hits the waxing crescent. That's probably close to the time he might have had it switched, and he was working in the concentration camp or the internment camp. When I first heard about it, I thought I was thinking concentration camp. When I started studying it, I realized it's not a German one, it's a Swiss one. And anyways, all the countries were putting people, anyone from another country were putting them in internment camps all over Europe. Britain, everybody was doing this. So this was the countries retaliating against each other. And it was not the same thing as running, as what our concept is of the Nazi stormtroopers. It was not the Nazi time. There still was medical and problems. But anyways, this new moon, I want to pull out and read for the phase going from 1910 to 1914. So this whole phase of culminating the relationship, of ending it. We saw the shocks and the transits that broke it up. So we're looking at the new ones. So we're just going to the first one here. Okay, waxing new moon phase. This is the beginning of the lunar cycle and lasts for 3.5 days, years, and progressions. The light is emerging gently from the depths of the darkest moment up to the first slim crescent of light, and a little further until the crescent is smiling brightly. This is a highly intuitive time filled with deep impressions and new beginnings. This is a time of seed moments and powerful insights. There's a predominant undercurrent of anxious anticipation. A new moon cycle is born. If you're born under this phase, you need to feel that your life is just beginning to open up. Well, he was surrounded at the beginning of this, 1910, he was surrounded by, it's opening up, but he's in circumstances that weren't letting him, that weren't supporting him. He wasn't going to be able to get very far just staying behind Freud. So he had the inner input to go forward before, and it took a couple of years. It was during this whole phase that he finally moved more towards it. The challenge is subjective. Are you prepared to advance your own cause? You should readily adjust your lifestyle to support any new sense of direction that you feel is emerging within you. Well, this is really giving, like, I love the new moons, the progressed new moons, because it really is talking exactly to his thing with Freud. And does he go on his own? Does he go for it or not? You will constantly be having to make new starts in life. You'll be sensitive to new beginnings and uncertain about your present surroundings. You are inclined to leave old attachments and memories behind. You will want to move forward towards your goals and will be frustrated by any setbacks. When you begin a project, it's important to advance with care and gentleness. Make sure that you nurture and protect the germinating seed. So this is the uniqueness of these new moon phases, because the conjunction is like a Capricorn. You have to protect things when they're first born. You have to be cautious with it. You have to be Saturnine with it. And it's not till the square that you get to the Aries type of phase. The germinating seed, the new you. It is usually easier for you to do things than to talk about them. Remember that you do not have to achieve everything right away, but it's important for you to feel that you are advancing towards your goal. So even though the circumstances around him, socially and career-wise, were deteriorating, they were still building, but against the battle with Freud in different directions. And that meeting point was coming up. So this was the whole issue during this time. But he still was writing and building up his own ideology during this time. You're the kind of person who plants ideas in the minds of others. You will reach out and impress others subtly. You'll always be able to sense the new path that should be taken. As long as you're moving along this path, you will feel relatively secure. Worries and problems will surface when you crystallize or stop growing. Do not look back or hold to the past. Nurture the light within. Protect your own development, and do not throw your good ideas out to fools who will not appreciate them. Well, neither should you follow the dreams of others. Like for Freud, he was dreaming that Jung was going to be his perfect student and follow exactly what he was doing. Trust your own inner sense of direction, and Jung catered to that, and it went long, but that catering was drawing thin. Whenever you can make the effort to be creative, you should. Do not try to explain the process, just do it. Consistent effort will accumulate, reach out, rely on your instincts, grow, break out of old patterns, move on, move on. New beginnings always seem small against the vastness of life around you. Nonetheless, every journey starts with one small step. Try to find friends who will support and acknowledge your efforts. Always be cautious about what you say. Words can come back to haunt you. Now, towards the end of this, apparently, he was tied up in some gossip or some negative gossip around Freud, and that got back to Freud, and that made Freud break the personal association, and then shortly thereafter, he ended the professional association. You will always be trying to start something. Make certain that you take the time to water the flowers and plants in your garden of hopes and dreams. The end does not always justify the means, so make your daily life creative. Take time to smell the flowers along your path. You'll be able to draw encouragement and inspiration by listening to birds singing. So, okay, so in this phase, he's working in the internment camp. He's broken this thing with Freud. His positions of being high and mighty in the academic associations and like even today, Freud is established in all the psychological institutions, but you're not going to study Jungian things until you've passed your psychology degree and you take it as a separate issue. It's rarely a mainstream course in any of the psychology programs in the universities. It's a secondary factor. That's a branch off of psychotherapy. So I like the nuance. It really points out, and you see the texture of it so clearly. It really, if you just took the new one, you would still have good advice that you're giving him that was appropriate to his situation. So, okay, that's the moons. Okay, so now he's born in July, so it's not this. The new moon's in Virgo. The new moon and full moon and new moon in Virgo will be the eclipses, and in October if he gets that far. So there's 3 eclipses that come in, and we'll see them on our next chart. The eclipses they can be dark things politically, but they're looking at progressions. This is inner enlightenments. It's inner deep impressions. It's your initiation points of your spirit in your life. So his sun starts in the 7th house. He goes along. He has the first new moon in 81, which was, excuse me, we don't have 81. It's only 4 or 5. Oh, yeah, we don't have anything really there. He moved to Basel about a year or 2 before that. So maybe it's in that change in the moon, but that's the first one. Then you get to the full moon, which would have been 1896. And in 1896, his father died on that progressed full moon. So, okay, so we're just going on. Then the new moon came in 1910. This was the new moon we just read, this phase of 1910 going up to 1914. And this was the phase where he ended the old relationship and started on his own. It's in the 7th house, so it's breaking his sun is conjunct Neptune, having the codependent relationships. And he goes up and it broke, that got left behind. So Freud wasn't catered to him, he left it behind. He wasn't getting what his Taurus moon wanted, and it got left behind. His wife didn't force the issue. She went along with it. So he didn't leave the wife, but he left. Yeah, he still had the support of his wife to keep going with it. So this was, he had the new thing. The full moon would have come up in 1926. So in 26, he had been for a few years going to Native Indians, to Africa, to Kenya, studying other things and other cultures. So so I don't have anything specifically there. But then by 1940, just into early, he had the next new moon, the next progressed new moon, and that was an eclipse. Well, that full moon in 1926 was an eclipse, 1940, and just before he died. And not written in here. Okay, so now I'm not going ahead up into that right now. Like I just cut this off. So we're really focusing on the time 1910 from the new moon, so progressed suns in the 7th house, moving forward, moving up, relationships, partnerships, and going up to when it gets to when the moon moves up to get to be the next phase, the moon will be in Libra and it'll be in the 8th house. Okay, so this was his developing his own. He had to set up his new set of friends and new sets of associations during this. And but his Saturn, the first is he kept writing, kept working on things and expressing himself. So even though he was going through different things, he had his identity was still fixed on writing about it and expressing it, making sense out of it. That's the Aquarius. But okay, let's just keep going forward here. Just take a look at the Mercury.